The Bryan County Patriot has an opportunity for a special interview today as we get to visit now with Michael Bluestein, who is the keyboardist for Foreigner, and Foreigner is going to be in concert once again in Bryan County at the Choctaw Casino and Resort-Durant, the Grand Theater. And Michael, thank you for taking some time with us today. I really appreciate that. I know the band's been around since the late 70s. You became a member of the band Foreigner back in 2008, so well into your second decade as a part of this tour. How did you come across this gig with Foreigner?
Yes, going on 18 years. So, yeah, it's been quite a ride. So I was recommended to audition for the gig. The keyboard player at the time was going to need to leave, and he told the guys he would help with finding a replacement. And just as luck would have it, serendipity, he and I ran into each other at a music convention. There's an annual music convention that happens in Anaheim, California every year called NAMM. And it's a big kind of networking event for music vendors and for musicians. And we ran into each other, and we had worked together before. And he just said, "Hey, I'm so glad I ran into you. I'm going to be leaving the gig, and I think you'd be the perfect replacement for me. Would you like to audition?" And that's how it happened. That was early 2008, January of 08. Came in for an audition maybe a couple weeks later, and then did my first gig with the band in March of 08.
That is something. And I know, listen, everyone is important in a band like this, but I would have to say that when the first note of Waiting for a Girl Like You comes on, I mean, I know within a fraction of a second what that song is. It's ingrained in my mind from hearing that all those years. And I know that's you then.
Yep.
Now, as you have taken over that role, how big is the keyboardist in a band like this? Because that's not the only song. I mean, there are a number of Foreigner songs where you know that keyboard line so well.
Sure. Cold as Ice is one, right?
Yes.
You hear that piano intro. Like you said, one strike of that chord, and most people know what it is already. The keys have always been a big part of the band. You know, in the late 70s, Mick Jones was very interested in bringing a lot of different elements together. You know, there was a hard rock element, guitar-based riff rock, but he was also, into keyboards too, and, Mick plays keys too. And, some of the sort of prog rock influences that were happening in bands like Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Asia, different, keyboards figured really prominently into the sound of the 70s, and you're getting into the late 70s, a lot of analog synthesizers were really big. Al Greenwood came in, and the original keyboardist, and he was a big fan of a lot of that music and was using analog synthesizers as well as being a great piano player and B3 organ player and everything too. So Mick was always interested in fusing those elements together, taking, the rock and roll thing, your straight up meat and potatoes rock, blues kind of stuff, but R&B, rhythm and blues, and then taking some of those progressive rock elements which had keyboards in it. And so, I think that with Foreigner was kind of unique in the way that those elements were fused together. And then, of course, going into the 80s, keyboards became bigger and bigger. You referenced Waiting for a Girl Like You, Foreigner 4, 1981, kind of like the beginning of the proliferation of keyboards, like talk about power ballads, right, of the 80s. You don't normally have a power ballad without a lot of keyboards in it, and so they started really stepping it up and layering a lot of things. And a lot of people don't know that Thomas Dolby was actually the guy who played and programmed and played a lot of the keyboards on Foreigner 4.
Wow.
Yeah. So before, people know Blinded Me was signed,
yes,
was a big hit in the 80s. A few years before he did that and had his breakout in the States with that, he was a studio musician on Foreigner 4 and put keyboards down on that record.
I don't think I knew that. And Foreigner 4 was the album that I got connected at that point in time with Foreigner and really getting to know the music there too. So that is very interesting. Yeah, that goes back a little ways with Thomas Dolby and saying that.
Yeah.
I know you're on tour right now, and of course you're coming through Durant here very shortly. As a matter of fact, it's going to be October 3rd, Friday, October 3rd, 8 p.m. That's when you're going to be here in Durant. But when you're not touring, I know you've been a session player as well. Do you get to do other things when you're not actually on tour with Foreigner?
I do. I have run a studio at home out of my house in Burbank, California, and do a lot of production work, both on my own music and, as you said, studio work for other people. I do songwriting, composing, producing. I have a kind of a lo-fi instrumental chill project that I've launched this year called Beat Glider, which people can find on Spotify, Apple Music. It's sort of like a chill kind of thing, good for a lot of the younger generation does this thing called study music, like where they'll be working on whatever, doing their homework, studying, and they put on some like chill music in the background. It's kind of good for that. Maybe like spa stuff, massages, chill, maybe like just a kind of a real sort of just creates a vibe. I've been doing a lot of tracks for that. Have put out my own jazz albums, jazz piano trio. I just try to stay busy, and it keeps it interesting doing different things.
If you've come on to the band, as we talked about, 2008, and you're a musician trained that in jazz and more, obviously a very talented musician at that, but you come in 30 years ish to a band that has a sound and that people are familiar with the songs from back when. Where's the mix where you look at it and you want to honor everything that's been done, and of course for some of the songs people will expect here today, but that you get to be yourself a little bit too, because clearly you're a talented musician. Is there a mix in there where you honor what the band is doing but get to express yourself too?
I think that's a great question, and a lot of that. Thank you for bringing that up. And that is kind of, there's a balance there, and ideally you do both. I mean, well, the thing is, it's sort of a cart before the horse thing. I mean, really, when you come into a situation where you're playing established songs that everybody knows and that everyone's heard, you have to honor that. I mean, that's the gig, as they say. It's like you said it when you said "Waiting for a Girl Like You." I hear that one note and I know in a half a second. So I'm not going to play any other note than that, right? Why, you can't start Waiting for a Girl Like You without that yes. Intro. That's the song. I can't decide, well, hey, I want to express myself and try something different. There's times, and that brings it to the point that you're mentioning, which is there's time for both. The intro to Waiting for a Girl Like You is not the time for it. That's the time to honor the song. And, and that there are certain songs where honestly, there isn't a ton of room for quote unquote self-expression, like that song. There's so many keyboard hooks. There's what you're talking about, but then there's the theme, the that theme that comes in between the verses, that has to be played with a sound that's pretty much that sound, right? So, and then there may be some spaces in the verses where a couple little things happen, So that's an example of a song that really needs to be honoring pretty almost, so pretty literally, sort of almost verbatim what the recording was. And then there might be a song like Cold as Ice. The piano part obviously has to be played like that. But then I get a featured organ solo in that song. So there's a sort of a maybe 32 bars in the middle of the song where I get to kind of stretch out and do something which isn't on the record at all, but we've allowed for that in the arrangement. There's that's sort of built in. It's like, okay, well, let's let Michael do his thing here in this defined space, and I'll get to solo there. There's also a solo section in the set where there's a keyboard and drum solo where they just kind of let us go to town for a few minutes, and it's sort of an intermission. It's a break for our lead singer, for Kelly, and he gets to, because those are not easy to sing, so he gets a little break, and we get a little instrumental feature, gives the audience something new to check out, and kind of mixes it up for them. So yeah, so it's a lot. It's, to answer your question, it's both. It's a lot of both, really.
When Foreigner has come to Durant, and the band has a number of times in recent years, one of the big things locally is that a local choir has had a chance to perform. At the Durant High School choir has a couple of times, and I think I'm sure this year Southeastern, the Corvettes, the show choir at the university, is going to get to perform with you all on stage. Talk about something like that, and getting to allow another generation to be a part of a concert that, gets to reach more than one generation.
It's a really exciting thing, and it's something we've been doing for a while, really since I've been in the band. It's it's a chance for these kids that are discovering music, discovering themselves, uh, kind of dabbling in the arts a little bit. Maybe they're part of a choir. Maybe they have a little band on the side that they're doing, practicing in their garage or basement, singing with other people, learning songs, new songs, pop songs, learning classic rock songs that their parents listen to and their grandparents listen to. Um, and then they get a chance to come up on stage with us and perform, and they sing "I Want to Know What Love Is," which was Foreigner's biggest hit, was the Foreigner's #1 hit all over the world. It's a huge song that everybody knows, and so that's part of it. Another big part of it is that the music and the arts programs in the schools are the first things to go. When there's budget cuts in school programs, okay, what can we cut? And unfortunately, a lot of times the musical programs and the supplies around that and the facilities are the first things to get the axe. So we we try to make that known. We try to bring awareness to the parents, to the school programs, to the school administrators. We're like that this is important stuff, right? This is really, it's part of being a well-rounded human being. Just having some exposure to the arts, whether it's getting, even for people that say there's kids that don't even sing in the choir, but their friends do, and they get to come and hear them, at a performance. It's like, for the kids that don't really sing or aren't moved to do that, if you take away the school choir, they don't even get exposed to that. They don't even get to see their friends do that. So it's just really important that we keep these programs alive. And it's not just academics, it's not just sports, it's the arts too. It's part of the whole human experience.
Well, you all again are going to be in concert Friday, October 3rd, 8 p.m. is when it is scheduled to start. It'll be at the Grand Theater in Choctaw Casino Resort-Durant. And I just wanted to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to add? We're very grateful for your time today. Anything you want to add?
Absolutely. I think we're good here. No, I think you covered a lot of great stuff, and we're good to go. So thanks for having me.
All right, Michael Bluestein, who is the keyboardist for Foreigner, and they're going to be in concert in Durant in Bryan County. For the Bryan County Patriot, I'm Joey McWilliams. Thanks for watching. God bless you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Joey.